Every year, hundreds of thousands of people go missing. Almost all of them are found, days later, miles away, alive or not, but found. This video is about the others, the vanishings with no body, no wreckage, and no answer, where a person, a plane, or an entire colony stepped out of the historical record and simply never stepped back in. Tonight, we are counting down 7 of them, from a single man who jumped out of a jet and into legend, to 115 people who disappeared together, leaving behind one carved word. Number 7. The day before Thanksgiving, 1971. A quiet man in a dark suit boards a short flight from Portland to Seattle under the name Dan Cooper. Mid-flight, he hands a flight attendant a note. He has a bomb in his briefcase, and he wants $200,000 and 4 parachutes. On the ground in Seattle, he gets both. He releases the passengers and orders the plane back into the air. Then, somewhere over the dark forests of southwest Washington, in freezing rain, he lowers the rear stairs of the Boeing 727 and jumps into the night with the money tied to his body. That is the last moment anyone can account for. No parachute was ever found. No body. In 1980, a boy digging on a riverbank found $5,800 of the ransom money decaying in the sand, and somehow that only deepened the mystery. In 2016, the FBI suspended the case. It remains the only unsolved hijacking in American commercial aviation history. October 21, 1978. A 20-year-old pilot named Frederick Valentich is flying a small Cessna across the Bass Strait off the southern coast of Australia. Just after 7 in the evening, he radios Melbourne with a strange question. Is there any known traffic near him below 5,000 feet? There is not. But Valentich insists something is there. A large craft with 4 bright lights, moving fast, passing over him again and again, as if it were playing a game. Controllers ask him to identify it, and then he says the sentence that made this case immortal. It is not an aircraft. What follows on the tape is 17 seconds of metallic scraping sound, then silence. Valentich and his plane were never found. Years later, a piece of engine cowling that might have come from his Cessna washed ashore, but it proved nothing. The recording still exists. You can listen to a calm young pilot describing something he could not explain in the final moments before he vanished. Before Edison, before the Lumiere brothers, the first person ever to record a moving image was a Frenchman named Louis Le Prince. In 1888, in a garden in Leeds, England, he filmed his family walking, a couple of seconds that survive to this day as the oldest film on Earth. 2 years later, he was preparing to finally demonstrate his invention to the public in New York. He never arrived. On September 16, 1890, Le Prince boarded a train from Dijon to Paris, seen off by his brother. When the train reached Paris, he was not on it. Neither was his luggage. No one saw him get off. No one reported a struggle. No body was ever found. The father of cinema vanished from a moving train, and within a decade, Edison was in court, fighting over the right to be called the inventor of the medium Le Prince never got to claim. History gave the credit to other men. The mystery it kept for itself. By 1925, Colonel Percy Fawcett was already a legend, a British explorer who had spent 2 decades mapping the deep Amazon and had come back alive every time. He was convinced the jungle hid the ruins of a lost civilization, and he gave it a name of almost mathematical confidence: Z. In April of 1925, he walked into Brazil's Mato Grosso with his son Jack and his son's best friend to find it. His last dispatch, sent from a spot called Dead Horse Camp, ended with the words, "You need have no fear of any failure." The jungle closed behind them, and none of the three was ever seen again. What happened next is its own tragedy. For decades, expedition after expedition went in looking for Fawcett, and by some counts, around 100 searchers died or disappeared trying to solve his disappearance. The jungle that took him kept taking. And here is the twist. Modern archaeology has since found real evidence of large, ancient settlements in the very region he was searching. Z, in some form, may have existed after all. Christmas Eve, 1945, Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder go to bed with 9 of their 10 children in the house. In the early hours of Christmas morning, around 1 o'clock, a fire breaks out. George, Jenny, and 4 of the children escape. The other 5 never come out. A tragedy, but on paper, not a mystery. Until you look closer. The house burned to the ground in less than an hour. Far too fast, experts later argued, to completely consume 5 bodies. Yet no remains that could be linked to the children were ever found. The family's ladder, always kept against the house, was found thrown down an embankment. The telephone line had been cut. And then, more than 20 years later, an envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a photograph of a man in his 30s, and on the back, a handwritten inscription that began, "Louis Sodder." Their son Louis had been 9 years old the night of the fire. George and Jenny never rebuilt the house. For decades, a billboard stood beside the highway, holding 5 fading portraits, and a question no one ever answered. October 1955. A small merchant ship called the Joyita sets out from Samoa on a 2-day run to the Tokelau Islands, carrying 25 people, crew, passengers, an official, a doctor, 2 children. She never arrives. 5 weeks later, she is found hundreds of miles off course, half-flooded, listing hard, and completely empty. Here is what makes the Joyita the Mary Celeste of the Pacific. Her hull was lined with cork. She was considered virtually unsinkable, and she proved it, because there she was, 5 weeks derelict, still afloat. The people who abandoned her were the ones who did not survive. On deck, searchers found a doctor's bag and bloodied bandages. The radio was tuned to the International Distress Channel. The logbook and the navigation instruments were gone. Not one of the 25 people aboard was ever seen again. Whatever happened in those dark hours, it convinced 25 people to choose the open ocean over a ship that could not sink. And number 1. In 1587, about 115 English colonists, men, women, and children, landed on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina, to plant England's first permanent settlement in the New World. Within weeks, their governor, John White, sailed home for supplies, leaving behind his daughter and his newborn granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America. He expected to be back within a year. War with Spain trapped him in England for 3. When White finally stepped onto Roanoke Island again in August 1590, the colony was gone. Not destroyed, gone. The houses had been carefully taken down, not burned. There were no bodies, no graves, no sign of battle. And carved into a post of the palisade, one word, Croatoan, the name of a nearby island and of the people who lived there. A storm drove White's ships away before he could search it, and he never saw his family again. More than 400 years of digging, and America's oldest mystery is still exactly one word long. 7 vanishings. More than 150 people between them, and not one ever accounted for. Maybe that is the real lesson. The world does not always return what it takes. So tell me in the comments, which of these do you think actually has an answer, and which one never will? And if you want more, we counted down 7 more unsolved mysteries in another video right here on the channel. Subscribe and stay curious. There is always another door left.